My first question for you is, and this is a question I ask every single guest who comes on the podcast, is what are you grateful for?
You know what I'm grateful for? It's not what I'm grateful for, it's who I'm grateful for. My wild women that come and do this work. Like, I cannot begin to stress enough how, because I teach yoga, right? Like, I teach yoga. So some people who want a yoga class will, I know the best yoga teachers to send them to. A woman who comes to one of our classes is willing to show up as a whole person with all of her shadow, all of her trauma, all of her love, all of her light, and bring it into this one space. That takes a lot of freaking ovaries to be able to show up like that. Like, it really takes a lot. So I feel so grateful for when a woman comes into my space, whether it's a one-on-one treatment, whether it's in a group class session, whatever, to come with every beautiful angle and aspect of her and lay it bare and share it and then receive support. Like, it literally breaks my heart. Like, I did a I don't know if you saw it, I did a reel last night, really late last night. Yesterday we had our class, so I'm still grateful. I'm just going to carry on going. I told you wouldn't be able to get me to shut up, so here we go. So did this class. We always open it like a women's circle, because it is. I have now officially, this is why I keep doing this yoga. It's not yoga. We have a women's circle with somatic sorcery. Like, that's how it's going. My brand Calisoma is all about making women feel safe and bringing them back home to their beautiful body. Sometimes that looks like sun salutations, no problem, of course. Most of the time it looks a little bit different. So last night was no exception. We're sat around, we're busy talking, we're sharing, and a couple of my wild women are going through a big heartbreak and grief and moving through that. And some of the things that they were saying about themselves were really mean and critical and harsh. And then when they said the things to each other, they were like, oh my God, you're so brave. Or like, you're so confident for doing that. Or like, oh my God, I'm so with you. That hurts so much, right? It sucks, doesn't it? No harsh words exchanged. And we're like, right, so if we can do that for each other, got to be able to do that for ourselves. So we're kind of taking turns in like going round as ever in the circle, but to offer this support, like cheerleading each other. And at this moment, I'm just sat back, I'm just watching this magic unfold and happen. And I'm like, I know what we're going to do. So I don't teach a traditional vinyasa class, like with headstands and handstands and stuff like that. Sometimes when it's right, but most of the time I'm like, okay, cool. What kind of somatic experience are we doing? Last night, however, I was like, right, we're all going to do a handstand one by one against the wall. I'm going to spot you and hold you up. And the rest of us are literally going to cheer and clap and scream and whoop you on. And everyone was like, oh my God. Because it's scary. That shit is scary, especially if we haven't been upside down since primary school, right? Or we think, I'm not this enough, or I'm too this, or I can't do this, or blah, 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 blah. All these words that we had, the self-criticism that pours in. And I'm never that teacher, Barbara. It's so funny. Who's like, no, do it. Like, I'm like, if it feels good to you, and if it feels safe to you, and if it serves your body in this moment, do it, right? I'm really gentle and feminine with how that works. And then last night I was like, no, you're going to. No, we're going to do this. And I'm like, no, I can't do that. I was like, we are absolutely going to do it. So I had to be mean teacher, and I'm just not fucking mean teacher. I do not have that in me, because I'm like, only if it feels good to you. So to be like, okay, put your hands down, you're going to kick up, and on the count of 3, I'm going to catch you and we're going onto that wall. So it's, even for me, it was like, oh. So yeah, so they all did it. And we all sat around and cheered and applauded. Oh my God, the noise, like the goosebumps. And then to ground after, we were just sat around, and I kind of just walked them through a bit of a, like, imagine that you've just gone into like the deepest, darkest well, the deepest cave. You've been allowed, you've given yourself permission to go there, to experience the shit, to be in the heartbreak and the pain. And you've allowed yourself to be there as long as you possibly need. Mm-hmm. And then imagine us waiting for you on the other side when you are ready, and we've got flowers and chocolate and tissues, and we had a joke about some of the other things. And we're like, when the time is right for you to move from that, we will be here. We will be waiting for you. And like, I just look around the room, we're all fucking crying. Everyone's crying. Everyone's crying. And like, that's why I was crying on the reel yesterday. It will move me to tears now. But that's what I'm grateful for is the wild women. The work, of course, and my teachers who have enabled me to do this, but the women.
Have you noticed how much women are connected in comparison before? You know, like there was so much like hatred, and it's like, oh, she wears a nicer dress, she's skinnier, and I'm fat, and I'm gonna hate her, and all that kind of stuff. Like especially when we were children, right? And I'm even noticing it with my daughter. My daughter is 8 years old now, and I can see how they support one another. The energy has completely changed.
100%. So as well, I haven't worked. When was the last time I worked in an office? A good few years, and we had lockdown as well, which completely changed everything, right? But even then, the office that I worked in, so I was the head of marketing for a mental health charity for like nearly 10 years. So there's probably not even to say there was nowhere near corporate, not even an officey feel, but I have been in offices where it feels like this. Because as women, we don't have access. We didn't have access to healthy competition and aggression when we're younger. This is a generalization, right? Obviously, I can't speak for everyone, but imagine when we're growing up. Yeah, I don't know if like you've got siblings or you've just seen this. With our boys, we're much more open to be like, yeah, that's it, you know, that's it, son, get it out. Like, say they're on a football pitch and they're kind of like coming head to head, where, you know, they have healthy channels for aggression and competition. It's very different now, and especially with the way, and it sounds like how you are with your daughters and how I am with mine. But imagine like our generation, our age, girls our age, about growing up and expressing healthy anger, healthy competition. We didn't really have the channel. If we got angry, it had to move straight into tears. Like that's quite often I see so many women who are like, why do I cry when I feel angry? It's because we were told it's not ladylike, it's not this. We expect guys, do you know what I mean, to like, and again, massive generalization, right? But this is what I've seen in my research with my wild women and my own relatable story. With guys, they smash a hole through like the door or the window, or like, oh, it's just boys being boys, or boys letting off steam. Like on a football pitch, they're head to head, and then they're like best mates in the changing room, or they're outside the pub and they're having a brawl, and then they're having a pint with each other. They have expression, they have channels that are acceptable. We didn't. Not all of us, but most of us didn't. So our competition internalizes, and because the way that society is, a woman is often put against another woman to be like, she's skinnier than you, she's taller than you, she's blonder than you, she has more ass, bigger boobs, right? Blah, 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 blah. You only have to walk past a magazine aisle to be like, oh, best beach body, worst beach body, etc., 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 etc. So that internalization of unhealthy, not channeled in a appropriate, balanced, healthy way of competition often came out like that. Playground politics. She's not cool enough. She can't play with us. It's not to say obviously boys don't do that too, right? But so we had a lot of this energy with women feeling like that, feeling insecure in the first place, and then projecting it onto others. To say that I haven't been or still haven't been guilty of that would be a nonsense. It's a lie. And to say that guys aren't too is obviously a massive, it's not true. When we see women supporting other women, it is gonna change the world. This is where it happens. It's right down at grassroots. It's the sister to the left and right of you in a yoga class, and instead of looking at them and being like, they're not doing it right, or I'm not doing it right, it's like, oh my god, girl, yes, go on. And even if you're not, say someone's doing a handstand and you're like, shit, I can't do that. I can't do a handstand in the middle of the floor. If I see a teacher doing it, I'm like, I really wish I could do that. But I'm like, yes, because I know how hard it is to get there. Yes, I'm supporting you. I still want to be able to do it one day. But it's that, how do we alchemize? Because that's not ours. It's not our material. It's not our stuff. It's not our own beliefs. It's conditioning, societal conditioning that's just been flooded in. And when you step back for a moment and say you feel yourself making a judgmental comment about the way another woman looks or how she behaves, or gossiping about who she slept with, not slept with, blah, 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 blah. If we just go, hold on a second. Is that actually really coming from my authentic space? Is that coming from my heart? Or is that how it used to be? Because I didn't want to be outside of the tribe, right? Any animal that's outside of the tribe, that's not designed to be in like alone. Often we're in packs. And if you're outside of the pack, you're much more likely to get killed. Let's face it. So for us, fitting in is very, very important. The sense of community and tribe and not being ostracized. So as we have this as a teenage girl growing up, we want to do the thing to fit in. We become a mean girl. We say, oh yeah, like, all of this shit. But we know it's not us. That's why it makes us feel so crap, because it's not ours. So when we still have some of this programming in our systems, but we get older, we are given the opportunity, and especially if we surround ourselves by women who are our cheerleaders, we alchemize it. I was joking about, in fact, last night and last Thursday with my yogis, we were going to put a workshop together where we do this really strong, empowering yoga class, and then we all sit round and either unfollow or block or mute 5 people from my Instagram that make us feel like shit. And we're like, because we imagine scrolling. Remember, social media is designed to do that. The internet is designed to do that. We want to stay hooked. It's like clickbait. So if we see something or an opinion or judgment from another and we're like, oh, that's made me feel like shit. Oh, that's making me feel like shit every time you scroll. Why have we got them? Why are we allowing that energy in our lives? So unfollow, get rid of it, clear it out. In fact, Gabor Mate did in fact, I shared it from one of my teachers, even just last night. People that stop you from being your aligned, authentic self, they're not serving you. That doesn't serve you. You can't grow like that. You stay stuck and suffocated to suit them. So when women can come together, honestly, seeing them last night, just so heartfelt, supporting each other. I'm like, if I die today, I feel like I've done my job. Like I will be so, so satisfied with what I hope that I have shared with the world, is creating, I can't call it safe space. It's only what the women feel like in that space, right? Whether they feel safe or not, but let's call it sacred space for women to support each other. And I surround myself by these type of women, by women like you, right? And peer to peer and colleagues. This is what we do for each other. So if an energy comes into my space that hasn't had the opportunity to grow, isn't yet growing, isn't yet on that journey, and just actually it feels gossipy, it feels toxic, it feels, which may at first feel, oh yeah, like I'm going to be drawn into that. But then you're like, I just noticed myself get drawn into that. That's interesting. Or like you're having a conversation where people are like comparing. Oh, my cleaner. Oh, my cleaner, blah, 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 blah. And you feel compelled to be like, yeah, well, and you're like, hold on the phone. Oh my God. What? Like, what are we having a conversation about? If you see yourself getting drawn into it, have some compassion for yourself first. Because remember, the reason that we did it was to try and fit in with other women, to try and be in survival mode. This is a nervous system response, but it doesn't serve us anymore. So you let that energy be that. And if they're going to be that, they're that. You take your sweet self off. You hang out with women that make you feel good and that you love making them feel good too.
It's also interesting when you remove those people, also from an Instagram. I have done it a long time ago, and I was like thinking, oh, if I remove 200 followers, I'm gonna lose 200 followers, but who gives a shit, right? I have removed probably about 500, and I was going through and I was looking at the things what they were saying, And some of those people I have followed because everyone else followed them, right? So again, I'm fitting in exactly what you said, right? So I should be following this person
Yeah.
because all my friends are following that person, trying to fit in. I was like, no, I don't agree with that. No, I don't like the vibe because obviously our intuition is very strong and all that kind of stuff. And now I actually enjoy scrolling through my Instagram because I get the
Yeah.
content that I really want. And it's great to do that. And as well with the people around me, like you and I are both moms, and I don't want to turn this episode into a mummy podcast episode, but people at school, right at the gates.
Oh,
I'm sure many people relate to this. And my husband goes like, "You have to make friends with those people because your kid's not going to have a play date." And I'm like, I cannot make friends with those people because I
no.
don't want to. No.
Yeah. Yes.
And that's where it kind of ends. But on the other note, Becky, I want you to talk about this power once, because obviously you creating a connection for these women and you're helping them to discover the power, activate the power, and removing the shame from it. So can you talk a little bit more about that, on how you do that and why you're doing
Yes,
it?
100%. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Is it even what you've just said, Barbara, about the owning? No, I don't want to be friends with them. At one point, you had to be like, I'm going to make this empowered decision to not talk to these people. And we set examples when we set boundaries like that for our kids. You don't have to be friends with everyone. You're not going to like everyone. School feels hard because it's a smaller environment, and like your whole world is the whole class, the other 25 kids. That's your whole world right now in your family. But as you get older, you're like, yeah, that's okay. You don't have to play with them. Well, yeah, you know, that's fine. But we're like, no, you two are children, so you must play together. And the only thing they have in common is the fact that they're both bloody 6. That's okay. So why is it any different for us as adults? If your intuition and your nervous system is like, I don't feel good when I'm near that person. I don't feel good. I don't feel energized when I come away from them. Why have you got them in your life? Like,
I just want to say,
does
Becky, it
that take?
doesn't mean that the people are bad people, right? So let's just confirm that
Oh,
they just don't vibe. They just don't vibe with our energy. So
yeah. Yeah, just same with you. All parents we go to school with, you know, no, it's not that. It's just a case of if there's something that's just not, it's not in alignment with you, or it does make you feel bad, like idle gossip and comparison makes us feel shit. Gossip can make us feel shit. We think we're down regulating as women. We think we're down regulating with each other when we gossip, but actually, because we're like, oh, we have this thing in common and we're moaning about it, but actually, it not that up regulation is good nor bad and the same we're down, but we come out and then we're like, oh god, I feel really drained. Oh, having to put that face on and say those things that I don't believe in, that's energy. So when you go, no, thank you. That's you being in your empowered self. And you send that conversation and those people who are good people off with love and light, but it's just not yours. It's not your thing. And that's a really big part of it. I've got a gorgeous goddess client who is working through a lot of that and letting go of connections, letting go because they don't serve her. Her Instagram is supposed to be the place where she feels good. This is for most women. Who I'm talking about, this is literally most. And so it's like, okay, cool. That's why we're going to do this workshop. Let's all sit around and let's support each other as we mute, block, unfollow, delete, goodbye, see you later. Doesn't serve you, get rid of it. So I love, and like that's where my passion comes from, is being able to sit back and watch a woman revel in her power, let go of the conditioning, let go of all of the programming and shit that she's got in her head. Oh, you have to look this way and you have to fit in and blah, blah, blah. And she goes, fuck this. Do you know what? Absolutely not. You have to be a little bit like that to come into our classes in the first place, right? Or at least curious, a little bit interested, a little bit turned on by the idea of it. Because this is the space where we do it, wherever we are on our journey. Like, I mean, I've got pink hair, right? Like, and like, you know, tattoos and this and this. I don't fit in. I don't, but I want to be different. I want to do me and do that kind of stuff. I mean, I teach women how to put crystal eggs inside their vagina. So when a school parent is like, what do you do? I'm like, I'm going to tell you I'm a yoga teacher and leave it like that. And then there will be people who I know that are much more interested. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm a women's sensuality coach. Okay, what does that mean? I'm like, oh yes, let's talk. Because you save your energy for people that need it, right? So yeah, I absolutely love it. And that was a long process for me. It was a really long process for me. And coming into this space and coming into my own. I really enjoyed my sexuality from a young age. And that is an instant, oh, you're a slag, you're a slut, blah, 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 blah. Of course, if I knew what I knew now, then things would look different for surezies, but not on the foundational level. I still wouldn't have hidden myself and my pleasure and my joy. Probably wouldn't have drunk as much, but right, we had to go through what we had to go through. And then I was in quite a lot of toxic relationships. They just were not good. They did not serve me at all. And that's all dealt with, and that's, in the past and everything. And then when I met my current husband, that's when, sounds so cliche. I'm like, and especially when I'm like, yeah, women's empowerment coach, yeah, be single and don't have children and go and travel the world. They're like, oh, I just knew when I knew. But I did. And so I had been diagnosed with endometriosis. I had all sorts of, I've been on the pill since I was 16, so for me, I was like, well, and I had have PCO, not the syndrome, but polycystic ovaries. Oh, it's going to take ages to get pregnant. It's going to take ages, blah, 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 blah. So we were together, I think, like 7 months. I was like, okay, cool. Let's make that decision to come off the pill, because we know that we want to have children together and that will be lovely. But it will take my body ages. Already thinking, I'm like at that age, young 20s, and already thinking my body is broken. My doctors have told me X, Y, and Z. Something's going on with my womb space. I'm not going to be able to have kids for a long time anyway. Got pregnant that cycle. So, ended up having my eldest daughter when I was 22. No regrets, nothing at all. Freaking love that her and I are going to have our 18th and 40th party together, even though she absolutely tells me she's not going to do that, but it's going to happen. And for a really long time, and considering this is young 20s, so you're pregnant, then you give birth, then you're exhausted and you're breastfeeding, maybe. Your sexuality is not even 0 on the list. It is negative 100 on the list. Survival for you and that child, basic needs. So I had postnatal depression, and not the kind where I didn't feel attached to her at all. Loved her instantly. It wasn't that, but I felt really low, really, really low. All my friends were at university. I didn't go. I was a rebel. Didn't go and do that. And it was a really, really, really difficult time. And Brandy and I, we were both young and we didn't have much support. Our parents were around. Well, my mum was around, but we didn't have siblings close who had kids, or aunties and uncles close to help us. That's saying it takes a village. It takes a fucking village, let me tell you that. So I felt ever so isolated. Didn't have my friends around. Is very, very stressful. And so my sexuality was just blue, 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 which was a massive change for me, because I loved being a sexual creature. I loved pleasure. I loved my body. I loved everything about seeking pleasure for it. So then you're exhausted, right? You're a mum, you know this. And not to make it again into a mummy podcast, but when you are a mother, you click into the energy, So got through that, went on my journey, became a yoga teacher. Yoga and counseling literally saved my life. Having the support from Brandon was like no other, but yoga and counseling were the things that totally changed my viewpoint. So a talking therapy and a somatic therapy, didn't know this at the time. I was like, oh my God, I really want to do this for other women. I don't want to train to become a counselor. How can I do this? Blah, 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 blah. So I become a yoga teacher, fall in love with it. Absolutely. Oh my God, this is it. I want to make sure that no woman ever felt like I did when I went to these baby mum groups and I was trying to talk about something like how hard it was, how freaking hard it was. I'm like, oh, but they're angels and we're so grateful for them. And I was like, Like, that's really cute for you. Can't lie, there are times when I literally think my child is crying to manipulate me. How can you call this darling angel a manipulator? And I'm like, are you on crack? Like, are you on literal crack? Like, no, fuck off. So even at that point, I knew. I was like, I'm not hanging around with people where I feel shit and coming away. So the option at that point was not hanging around with people. I was like, great. Found yoga, found a tribe, found where I was like, oh my God, yes, this is it. So time goes on, I do my teacher training, and then my path of like, oh, I'm into that, and all the tantra side of it, and oh, dance, and oh, sensuality and sexuality, and it just is an ever evolving path. Your 200 hours is literally a piece of paper that's like, great, you're licensed to be in a room with others and show them how to move their body. Excellent. It's the rest of it that takes you on, and I was on a course with you nearly 2 months ago. We're ever learning. So so then I worked for a mental health charity, which I absolutely loved, and I thought I'd be there forever, but I was made redundant, which was a massive shock. It's like, oh, I was going to be here forever, and even when I retired, I was going to be a trustee. Like, no, you think you know your whole path, and at the same time, I'm like, I need more time to help more women, and universe is like, right, here we go. So I was like, shit, that's it. Do you know what? I'm not going to look for another job. I'm going to go full time. I'm going to do the magic full time. And I tell you, universe had my back. That was my path. That's what I was supposed to do. I have never, ever looked back, ever. So, have now I'm established. Have Willow, my second daughter. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Again, pregnancy, exhaustion, giving birth, breastfeeding, that goes on and on and on and on. So this whole time, my 20s, right? My whoring 20s, I've not had the type of, and don't get me wrong, Brandy was so generous, so patient. He's like, can I do this for you? Can I do this for you? You like it when we do this. I'm like, babe, I love you, but I just can't be bothered. I'll just lie there. Just lie there. Nothing. No, nothing. And then I developed, I developed this skin complaint, agitation, itch, burningness that literally turned my life upside down everywhere. Started off in my vulva. Irony not lost. Started off in my vulva. Spread throughout my whole body, and you couldn't see anything. So every time I went to the doctor and I was like, look, it's so bad. And they're like, what am I looking at? I'm like, oh my God, it's really itchy. I want to kill someone. They're like, yeah, okay, cool. Here's some antihistamine and some steroid cream. Rub that in. Good luck for the rest of your life. And I was like, that can't. What? Like, no. And all the work that I'd done, so I knew traditional Chinese medicine at this point. I had an Ayurvedic background at this point. I was like, doing the work. It's like, fuck, nothing is working. So every other day I could take half a antihistamine. That was just enough to take the edge off of me wanting to murder. Just enough. Steroid cream, just enough to stop murdering. I would go like this to my skin and the histamine bumps would flare up. And I know when I'm stressed is if I do that and they... So that's how I know. Anyway, I had no clue, but I can't even remember how. This is how I know it's supposed to be, but Yoni eggs came into my life. A crystal egg about this big that you put inside the vagina. I was into crystals, right? So I was like, I surround myself with crystals. Why not put them inside me? Warning, do not put just any crystal inside you. I have a very specific egg. Yeah, some of those eggs are just sharp. You don't want to be doing that. And some crystals are porous and some shouldn't get wet, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so I was like, oh my God. And for the first time, I could feel this ignition turning back on. And I was like, oh yeah, sex doesn't just have to be lying there. Brandy and I used to call it maintenance bones. In the industry, it's called service sex, but he and I used to call it maintenance bones. And he'd feel really bad that I hadn't enjoyed it. I hadn't had pleasure, but I was like, babe, let's just do it, whatever. So my mouth was saying yes, but my body every single time was saying no. It was this that was causing my skin reaction. So when we work, so any liver holds agitation, frustration, anger. If we're not speaking our truth, we're not allowing the fire to flow through, it presents on the skin. Like, think about when we're stressed, psoriasis, all the other dermatology
Hives.
problem. hives. That's what it was like, covered in hives. So throat is tight, womb space is tight. These two are the same tissue in the womb. It's the spine that as it grows and disconnects them, right? This is the as you and I have said multiple times, cervical spine, cervix. Cervix means throat. We have one here, we have one there. As above, so below. There's, it's not a coincidence. They're the same, like this, like same kind of sphincter voice note movement muscles anyway. So I'm starting to get into this and I'm getting sexual again. And I'm like, oh my God. And I was like, I was initiating sex and I could feel, and I was getting lubricated myself, because when you use a crystal egg, the vaginal walls and the glands will naturally lubricate, because it's like, oh, we've got something in here. So the more and more I'm getting deeper and deeper into this path, and I'm buying, instead of vibrators, these clitoral intense hiccups, blah, done. And you're like, okay, great. And then you just like, screw it, I'm just going to watch porn and have another one. You can go again and again and again. Glass wands, taking my time, slowing down, making it about me and my pleasure. Obviously, Brandon, the fact that I'm initiating is like, oh my God, yes, like, yes, yes, yes. So it's that positive feedback cycle. And I remember eventually we got into Scorpio season. So Scorpio, the sign of sex, taboo, like kink, the underworld, all of that, the shadow, very sexy place. And I was like, oh my God, yeah, I want this, and I want to be choked, and I want to be tied up, and I want to be blindfolded, and I want this, that, like all of this. It came back again. Me in my 20s, well, not even 20s, because I'm busy freaking rearing children, right? But adolescence was like, oh my God, yes, 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 yes to all of this. So with that, oh, and in fact, I think it was Halloween. So Witches' New Year, the sexiest holiday there is. We had some banging sex, some kinky as fuck sex. That was the last day I've ever taken an antihistamine. It's been a little bit different, mind you, so that's a bit of a lie. So I've had this work done recently, so I would drink it, like, because it was really, really itchy. But I had PTSD around taking antihistamine tablets because of thinking what it was going to do to my body. And obviously antihistamines, they make you a bit spacey. So I was just not me. It's like taking antidepressants, which I hated back in the day too. So Halloween, sexy, kinky as fuck, having the type of sex that I want. My skin rash has completely gone. And I'm like, fuck, we need to share this with other women. Oh my God, this is it. And so the rest is kind of history. I did a sex coaching course. As you know, I do a lot of somatic practices. We do dance. We do all like touch. So in our Yoni Egg 3-month coaching program, it's always very specific to what that wild woman is going through. We've used it for grief. We've used it for creativity, loads of stuff, not just sexuality, but in there's body work, there's lip massage, there's dance in front of the mirror. There's all sorts of stuff that allow a woman to drop into her power and into a jaguar-like energy and to reawaken, because it's there. Sometimes it's dormant. Sometimes we've never experienced it's not a drive, but we'll call it a sex drive, libido. And we're like, oh my God, life can be colorful again. You're like, I can smell color now, guys. And we're turned on, not even anymore by sexual stimulus, but a sunset. We stop and slow down. We're like, oh my God. Or the moon. We look at the moon, or we see nature. We enjoy cooking or something that's creative. We connect into our creativity and our confidence and our courage. And even if we don't use it for specifically our sexuality, we do fricking wake up. And we feel empowered and we feel connected as women. And we're like, oh my God, I'm celebrating you and all of this. And you're like, thank you, I'm going to receive that. And the same to you. And that's it. That's life-changing. So that's how I got into it. It was my own personal journey.
It's all about the creative energy anyway, isn't it? The sexuality is creative energy. But what I want to know more is about, how do you make people fall in love with their vagina? And I think that is something that everyone struggles with, because you and I had this conversation before, about the certain cultures, what they do. I'll let you talk a little bit about that more. And the shame, it's big. And this is something which comes from ancestral trauma, and every single person carries it around. It's like, even like you know, if somebody wants to come down on you, you're like, oh no, maybe I look different to the woman he's done before. Maybe it's not pretty enough, because we don't feel pretty. We don't feel confident. And it creates this block. And I think that is where you stop or you block the creative energy. So
Yeah.
I'm just like literally thinking loud here. You
Yeah.
know.
That's what I've been doing for the last half an hour. But you're so right. You're so right. Because at the end of the day, it's life force. It's life force that moves through us, right? Which is another reason why spinal works so well for this work. Because if there is a blockage, spinal energetics helps us to unlock that block. Now, imagine that in ourselves, and we know we have a sexual side, but it's dormant and there's nothing there, or we feel shame and guilt or disgust, despair around our vulvas, around womb space. So I'll say yoni. Yoni is a Sanskrit word for sacred portal or sacred space. And that's the external, meaning the vulva. So your labia, your lips, your clit, the vaginal opening. Internally through the vagina, the uterus, the ovarian tubes, and the ovaries. Now, what we have anatomically really doesn't matter. Womb space carries its own charge and its energetic footprint. So when I'm referring to this, it doesn't matter if you're not born in with this bit or this bit or this bit or anything like that, or you've had an operation, anything. Is the energetic footprint of womb space and yoni. So there is so much conditioning, so much shame, so much this. I mean, would you believe, right? A room full of women on our last day retreat, we were all painting our vulvas. We were all doing these beautiful yoni paintings and displaying them proudly. I'm just going to shut the door. And being able to connect to our creativity to do that. Some of us had mirrors, right? And we had blankies. And we're like, okay, cool. Self-portrait time. Let's go. Let's look. Because there is so much conditioning, and a lot of this is down to porn. There's a time and place for good porn. But most of those women in porn have had surgery to make it look a certain way. Whether labiaplasty, I think is the name for it. Yeah. The rise of surgeries to reduce the inner and outer lips is exponentially growing. Not having hair or bleaching it, skin lightening, all of these treatments that are so unnecessary. We have this in our day-to-day, but it's still the same, as you said, ancestral witch wound of a hymen being in place. Virginity is a social construct. It doesn't exist. There are women perimenopausal who've even had children and obvious sex relations where the hymen is still intact. It's tissue, it's different for everyone, where it goes, how it moves. But we're still holding on to this concept of the perfect pussy. So no wonder we feel so much shame. Oh, my inner lips are longer than my outer lips, or my lips aren't level, or it's a different color or texture, or what we're seeing portrayed in porn is so unrealistic, and yet women are watching it and think, I don't look like that. Men are watching it and thinking, that's how a vulva looks. So we've already created a narrative in our head. We've already got it there. And it's not just porn, but, a societal thing. Ancestral. So when we can do the work to address feeling safer or more confident in our bodies, of having compassion for our womb spaces, like sayings like after you give birth, oh no, don't watch your wife give birth, it's like your favorite pub going up in flames, or like something like that, something as misogynistic and terrifying as that. So we think, notice how like my throat constricted at that, that's interesting. We already have these notions of, oh, having children ruins everything down there. Like we can't even say like our vulvas or our vaginas. So there's already a disconnect. The fact that we, as children, nunus and front bottoms and other names that carry so much shame. One of my favorite books in the whole world is Vagina by Naomi Wolf. Like, if you haven't read that, you got to read that. Fantastic. So many other books, but that's my passion book at the moment. So all of this creates shame before we even understand it, understand what it means. We're holding ancestral, like the root Latin words, like pudendal, nerve. Pudendal means shame in Latin. So a man's genitalia that was external, God approved of this. This was good because it was external and it was on display. A woman's was shameful, so God had to tuck it up and away. So there's already so much. The fact that most of the places or most of the anatomy in the womb space is named after men, squeeze me what, right? Because they discovered it. All the way to most gynecological practices now were started by an American man who practiced on his slaves without any anesthetic to remove the uterus. So it's deeply misogynistic and obviously sexist. It's racist. We carry all of this before we even have an idea. Every time we go for a smear test, okay, fine, we're giving consent, but we're not really giving consent. No, I don't actually really want you to rummage around in my vagina. Not really, but okay, because it's for the best, right? Of course, have your smear test, guys, is important. But, I teach women how to insert their own speculum, the thing that goes in and out. I teach them to part their own labia, to use the lube themselves, to do deep empowerment practices that allow them to be in that space where it no longer feels like a threat. This is something that takes time. So this isn't a one session. This is why the yoni egg work is at least 3 months long, at least. And that's the beginning of our journey, just like a 200-hour teacher training. It's the beginning of the journey. So there is a lot of forgiveness. Sometimes there's writing letters. Sometimes there's yoni hugs, holding. Sometimes there's yoni gazing in front of a mirror. And at first, it's really hard to look. And especially, I remember, oh my God, the first time I had Izzy, I was like, the first time I had a child, it's like, holy shit, I do not want to look. I do not want to look. I feel like all my organs are falling out of me. Like, I'm not looking. I've dealt with some women, bless them, like I've had them in my space who haven't looked for like over 10 years since they had children. So they don't even know. So how can they feel confident and empowered? So that's what we change. Sometimes there's yoni sunbathing, right? If it's sunny and I've got clients through the summer, we're like, inside, make sure no one else can see you and you feel comfortable and you feel safe. Yoni sunbathe. Let sun penetrate. Feel that sensation. So it really starts from a very nervous system foundational level of trying to get a woman to enjoy her pleasure and enjoy her body. And it's different for everyone. Every single woman I've ever guided on this path, we've gone in a different journey, a different direction, different tools, different practices. But the change in these women, like you sit back and you're just like throwing roses as if they're on a stage, like fucking hell, well done. Because it's so deeply ingrained. And especially when different cultures are involved, right? And, it feels like I can speak from a place of privilege, so we have to check in with that. We have to be aware that there's so many different things that I can only ever empathize with and fingers crossed support with, whilst I have no experience of that of myself. But I will do my damn best to hold space for that woman and guide her into sacred ritual and into sacred space where she feels empowered in her body again, or for the first time.
I used to have a friend and he was on this dating site because he wanted to have sex with somebody. And I'm not going to say the religion now because I don't know. I don't remember that. But I know he kind of arranged to have a sex with this girl. And she's this particular religion. And the deal was that they have to have a sex through like a bed sheet and they had to be cut whole. So her vagina was completely covered, so he wasn't able to see it. So that was just like literally the hole, and that was where you know, where the
Yeah, fucking
penis
glory
cock or
hole.
whatever you
Yeah.
call it. Yeah. So I remember that, and he was like, "That's a bit strange, but like I'll try anything. This is very exciting." And obviously, I know, I know. But I know, like there are so many women that they yeah they do feel shame. How long does it take?
That really is like asking how long is a piece of string, because when we are doing, and as well, you know, with spinal energetics, when we are working on nervous system, sometimes there's a drop in, sometimes oh my god, yes, light bulb moment, but then we still have behaviors that we catch ourselves doing. We still have upgrades, language upgrades, all sorts of how do I feel when I just listen in and touch myself and this. So it can take time. For some people it can take years, but remember the relationship we have with ourselves, with our bodies, and for a lot of us with our womb spaces, is a lifelong one. So it's ever changing. It changes if we're bleeding throughout our cycle. It changes in different phases of our lives. When we enter into perimenopause, that's a whole new way of fucking falling in love with yourself again. Yeah, that's a challenge. So we can have the instant downloads and the drop-ins, but there's the awareness and then the making the change, the integration and the processing. And that really depends on what that person has been through in their life, what their capacity to hold that is. So that is why, though, I always say yoni egg coaching is a minimal of 3 months. And as well, just to like clarify, we never insert yoni eggs in front of each other. It's never anything like that. It's if you ever feel like you want to, you do it at home. It's a home practice. There's always home play, not homework, home play always. But that ranges from like a vision board to looking in the mirror at yourself. Like it's vast. It's so vast, and depending on what journey we're on and what it is that we kind of want to achieve, I'm saying that in air quotes because again that adds a here's a problem and I need the solution or quick fix or something's wrong with me. So I try to stay away from that kind of language. But the egg, so the first week you're in ceremony and you're gifted the egg, you receive the egg. That whole week that you go home, you make an altar for it. You put it under your pillow, you connect with it. Even if we're like, oh, I can't wait to put it inside me. I can't wait. I'm so turned on. I just want to put it inside me. Obviously, it's your body, it's your choice, right? But where we can is to slow everything down. So I don't teach insertion, like literally holding the egg and kind of showing it in my hands like this, until the second, if not third week. And I've had clients who have never put the egg inside them at all. But the egg is the tangible aspect of the practice. It works on the subconscious. So if we've got this beautiful vision board of us in like a year's time, she's fucking ferocious as this and she's wearing this or she's driving this or she's doing this for her job, etc., whatever, because a vision board of course is very personal. And then she has a little altar for her egg and she's bringing it flowers or lighting incense or candles. Her subconscious is going to align these energies. Oh, every time I do my yoni egg practice or I go for a session or I self-pleasure and I see this, I'm associating this with this. That can't happen overnight. To wake up and be like, I'm an empowered woman. No, it takes time. So that's why we come across on so many different levels: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, energetic. So we can sink that in. Because remember, not feeling safe in the body to try and then overnight feel safe in the body will feel unsafe, will feel potentially triggering. So it's that we work so slowly. We work with consent. This is all about regaining body consent as well. Like I was saying before, the amount of times we've had sex and we've like, it's fine, I've said yes. But your womb space is like, nope. It's tighter. Nope. Then we get thrashed. Just keep them out. No, thank you. No, thank you. But we're like, yes, okay, that's fine. Whether it's sex, whether it's internal examinations of any sorts, etc., etc. It's learning. So that's where we take the egg. I haven't got anything to show you. I haven't even got an egg near me. We take the egg and like we listen in. Is it a yes? Is it I'm a curious, I'm interested? Or is it a no? And if it's a no, we're like, thank you so much. And we come back. We withdraw. We change the practice. Or we close.
Give a little spoiler and say what have you witnessed after this 3 months course? What have you witnessed?
So you gotta be prepared for some life-changing shit, right? And that's not a like, oh, I come and sprinkle magical fairy dust over your yonis. It's not that. It's you might wake up and be like, shit, I have been putting up with X, Y, and Z, and I'm no longer doing that. I don't want this job. I don't want to live in this house. I don't want to be with this person. I don't want these friends. I'm not going to speak to my mum for a little while, right? There can be some big disruptions. Which can feel very scary. But if a woman can feel liberated in her body, expansive, spacious, if she can, maybe she couldn't sing before. Maybe we're in a yoga class and when she exhaled, it was quiet. And now it's, ah. Maybe she takes on a creative project, right? It can look, the feminine is vast and ever expanding and ever growing. It changes. We do this. We don't want that anymore. We do this. We want both things same time, right? It's the liberation. So it can look just as small as, oh, I can sing to myself in the car now, whereas before I couldn't. Or now I can speak up at work. Now I can give presentations. Now I can ask for the promotion that I fucking deserved 2 years ago and that damn pay rise. Maybe it's, oh, I've got into a relationship and actually I'm not really happy with how it's going, or my boundaries are always feeling like walked over. So I'm going to speak up. Or maybe it's, oh, now I have a list of non-negotiables, a WWW list, what I'm willing to do, what I want to do, what I won't do. Maybe it's the first time I go to a sex party, right? It looks different for everyone. Maybe it's just being able to offer yourself words of kindness. It's so vast to try and reduce it into a, at the end of this 3-month coaching, you will feel bow, bow, bow. I can't, but you will feel different and you will feel empowered. And that, like, even to swing it 360, that is what I'm so grateful for, is women coming up, showing up for themselves and doing it for themselves. The positive ripples that has, so sex with partners, job, da 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 da. These are cherries on top. If you can feel more aligned into your authentic self, more fucking empowered, more I wake up and I'm ready to or I'm allowing myself to sit in grief and heartbreak and not beat myself up. I'm allowed to give myself a day off from work and stay in bed and call in sick because I just can't do it anymore. You feel empowered to do that. If you put boundaries in place, no, do you know what? I'm really bored of taking the kids swimming. You do that. Personal experience. It's it's we look for those day-to-day changes. It's the day-to-day change. But my God, it's so life-changing. So life-changing. Without my yoni egg, firstly, this sounds dramatic, but I'm okay with being in that space. Let me tell you, the itch was so bad. You know that sensation when you're waxed? I would dream of someone literally waxing layers off of my skin, of taking a blade and slicing my skin off because I couldn't put up with it anymore. So I know what it's like to have the internalized frustration and rage and anger and despair and depression and anxiety and not feel safe enough to express it. So my body, that's why 80% of autoimmune cases, right? Women, we internalize. We need safe space to be able to be like, I'm feeling like that. I need that.
Those
When we step
people,
into that space.
Yeah, those people back in the
Oh,
day
sorry.
when they have taken over, when they were taking the power away from women, they were very clever what they were doing, right? Creating a shame around the source of creativity and where the power lays in. It's so, but like we could have started the whole podcast with starting talking about that because that's where we're kind of ending,
Oh,
right?
it will never end. If we start a podcast with that, let me tell you, I will never stop talking about it. Just remember for a second, we create life. Now, that's why it used to be, not everyone can, not every woman can, not everybody who wants to have. I totally, totally appreciate this. But think back in the day, this was held with so much respect. That's why we had all these incredible goddesses. It was it wasn't a matriarchal society, but in terms of religion and belief, women, okay, we know where other religion then came in and changed all of that. If you think for a moment how scary it would be for women to feel fully confident, fully in their voices, fully in their power, fully in their bodies, they can have children, they can continue humans existing, the biggest power that there is, let's not take that away for a moment, because we treat pregnancy if it's as an illness, we treat labor as if it's it is a trauma, in fairness, but in terms of it's horrific, it's this, it's this, it's this, it's this. So what would be a really clever way to do that? Yeah take away the power, take away their voices, take away the control, take away their consent. That's what fucking happened. That's what happened. You've got to read Vagina by Naomi Wolf. I cannot. I've read so many books around sexuality, around pussy, around all of this, that I'm literally looking at my bookcase now. That one, though, goes into the history and the witch wound. And the women were hung for being witches for helping other women give birth. Sorry. Huh? Right? How did that become a male practice? But it did. So, all of that, yes, absolutely yes. So we have to look at how can we bring this up? Because society is changing. And remember, being a feminist means that we believe that all genders have equal rights. But some of those rights will be different. Okay? Think about a society where women can have time off for bleeding. In America, maternity leave is not 6 weeks. In other countries, of course. That we're not penalized for having children. There's no like, oh, you've got a career gap. No, I was raising humans. All of this came from having women's power taken away.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I say, if I died tomorrow, I feel like I've lived my purpose. My dharma is to help women feel empowered again. And there are so many of us doing it as well, right? Once we're in the space, we're then sending the work out, we're spreading it out. You know, someone being like my best friend. It's so funny. We don't have much in common in terms of this line of work, right? When she's like, front bottom or something, I'm like, no. And it's funny, but she's like, oh, I know you'll hate it, you know, and it's just one of those things where we can only do it if we're supporting the women in our lives, and then we're supporting our children as well to have the education, right? From day one, my littlest was like, vulva. Whereas Brandon's like, oh yeah, you're noonie. I'm like, don't call it that. I'm like, you wouldn't call an elbow anything but an elbow. So why are you, stuff like this. And that makes people feel uncomfortable because we're like, shit, I didn't do that. Oh, I didn't. But if we can change it just from the basic language, just language, go from there. Because words are spells, right? So we're making magic with our words. And that's what we do as women.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much, Becky.
Oh, wow.
Last, I want to say, like, normally I got the question at the end says, like, have you got any last words of wisdoms? But uh, I'm like, I don't know if I should ask. Do you want to add something?
Part two. Let's podcast part two. Yeah, something though that I'm super excited about, obviously coming together with you and learning spinal energetics. Like, it's just another fucking tool to help women come back into their bodies. Like, just as I was saying to you earlier, just had that session with a woman who, honestly, not expected. She was like, "Fucking hell, I can feel when I'm back there." She's so used to taking care of everyone else. Proper mother hen energy. My God, I love this woman. Okay, always taking care of others. And then she was like, "Oh shit." Neither of us expected what came out.
Yeah, spinal changes perception for me. For me, it's like completely changes perception. And I don't know if it's because the trauma gets healed and things get shifted. By the way, everyone's listening, we're going to talk about spinal in another podcast episode, so stay tuned for that. It's this amazing technique. I don't know if I want to give out too much about it because it's gonna um, it's called spinal energetics, and literally working with the energetic field. That's all I'm going to say right now. But it is amazing.
Ooh, teasy.
It is something, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, wow.
Oh my God, honestly. Yeah. It's absolutely life changing. Like, both of us will attest when we've had our sessions. It's absolutely life changing. But again, like, and the way, and I always knew it was something I was going to do. Always, always, always. But how I'm seeing this modality combining with getting women to connect back into themselves. Because when we work with energetic blockages, especially around womb space, and we get to facilitate their bodies going, "Oh, okay, I'm going to feel back into this area. Okay, I'm going to soften. I'm going to move. I'm going to alchemize what this is." You're like, "Oh my God, yes, babes, have it. Drink it up." Because it connects us back, and it connects us back into our power and our authentic selves. And that's, I got goosebumps now.
So, where can listeners find you and get in contact with you?
Thank you, my darling. So on Instagram, it is Wild Luna Yoga, and the same for the website is Wild Luna Yoga. I am rebranding very soon, so I'll be making a much bigger deal out of my Calisoma. So I'm so excited for that. So excited. But for now, yes, Wild Luna Yoga on the Instagram website. That's where it's at. Obviously, I work with women. Honestly, I have people on the website, and I'm like, sorry, but so, but yeah, it's, you feel ready, you feel curious, you feel intrigued, you feel a little bit turned on, you feel nervous as fuck, let's talk. Like, that's it. That's it. Most of my women who I've known for years, when they come to see me for a treatment, I don't know what to expect. I'm like, babes, perfect. Perfect. Let me explain. So yeah, I would very much welcome people who are curious about connecting back into their body, their sensuality, their power, because at the end of the day, that's what changed my life. And if I can share that with others, I've done my job.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome, gorgeous. Thank you for having me.